Welcome, everyone. Episode 74 of Christian Geeks Rockcast with Steve Chalk and Britt Mooney.
What's
going
up,
on, Britt?
What's up, everybody?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. This is our snow day episode.
Mm-hmm.
Although you and I, as we were talking before, we don't get a snow day. Not really. I mean, I had a couple things canceled this morning, mainly like an in-person event, but I've got meetings all day. So anyway.
Same. Yeah, it's like at our office, we have a hybrid work from home model. So 2 days a week, Mondays, Fridays, most everybody works from home. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, everybody works in the office. So today is Friday and it's a work from home day. And so the rule is the rule that we put in place, which I actually honestly think is great, is if you're typically a 5-day in the office employee, you get the day off, do whatever you want. If you're a typical work from home employee, you got to work, which the thing is like, I honestly feel bad for those folks that have to go to the office 5 days a week. Cause there are things that are required in the office 5 days a week. So like give them a day off, let them have fun. I'm all for that. Right. So yeah. Kind of cool.
I like it. Yeah. So we're sitting here in a snow day and it's not quite a snow apocalypse yet. I don't think it is. It's just kind of a nice little dusting out there. I think it's going to be nasty in the morning. That's what I think personally. So we'll see how it goes. But we are in Atlanta where they don't know how to deal with snow. We don't have the resources to deal with snow. And you think that people moving from other parts of the U.S. would know how to drive in snow, but I don't. They don't really. So,
well, I mean, at least there's icy precipitation on the ground right now, because there's so many times where we take a snow day and it's just a beautiful day or an overcast day. But like I checked it out earlier this morning. We had 2 inches of snow here. Now a lot of it is melted by now, and I think we're just going to get freezing rain the rest of the day. Yeah, but still, nobody needs to be out driving in this, especially people in Atlanta.
Especially when there's hills and people don't know how to drive in it, and I realize we haven't done the prerequisite driving in the snow thing with Elisha. Maybe we can get out tomorrow and do a little bit, but yeah. So we haven't taught her how to do it yet. We haven't taught her, taking her basically what my dad did. He took me to a big parking lot and said, okay, go as fast as you can and slam on the brakes.
In the snow?
In the snow. Like we were up in West Virginia, and he took me, and he was like, "You have to learn how to turn into the slide and blah 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 and all the stuff." And he was like, "But you've got all this room to figure it out." And we did it for a couple hours, and I haven't done that with Elisha yet, mainly because there hasn't been opportunity. But maybe we'll do it tomorrow. We'll see if that's a doable thing.
Well, I remember this is brought up usually at least once a year in my family. There was I don't remember when exactly it was, but it was like 6 or 8 years ago when the city shut down, like literally shut down, and people were walking 8 or 10 miles. People were sleeping in grocery stores.
Oh man.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I was in Phoenix, Arizona on a work trip at this time. And so, Jill and the boys were at school and they had to deal with the traffic getting home and just, all the precarious, because again, what happened was, if you're not familiar with it, it's like, it just started raining and then froze. Yeah. And so like there was ice, like just a sheet of ice over everything. So cars were sliding in ditches, sliding into each other. Cars were breaking down. It was crazy. I, on the other hand, like in the vendor that we went out to visit had this is horrible. I'm sorry I have to tell this on the podcast, but they had a suite at the Waste Management Open, which is the big golf tournament at the PGA, at the TPC course in Scottsdale, Arizona. So I had to go to the golf tournament and like eat free food in the suite. While I'm standing there in shorts and a golf shirt and everything, I'm talking to Jill, and she's like, "I don't know how we're going to get home. Everything's starting to freeze over." And I'm like, I really had a lot. Believe it or not, I had a lot of sympathy for them.
Oh, sure.
And I did, but I couldn't do. I was on the other side of the country, so I was supposed to fly back that next morning. So at some point late at night, me and my colleague were like, the roads are like, there's nothing passable in Atlanta. And I live on the other side of Atlanta from the airport. So I'm like,
sure. Yeah.
This is dumb. I'm going to fly to Atlanta.
An hour and a half at least, right? It's an hour and a half at least.
So we decided to cancel our flight and stay another day.
Sure.
And we had nothing to do that day in Arizona. I mean, because we hadn't planned meetings or anything, and our meetings were over. So the vendor that we were working with, he was like, "Let's go to Sedona." So that day,
he had a wonderful day in Sedona. Yeah. So waste management. That was the name of the tournament. Waste management tournament. Sounds like a crappy tournament. So when you were calling Jill, I'm picturing like you're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and she's hearing 4. She's hearing all sorts of like laughter and drinks clinking in the background, and you're like, "I'm so sorry,
Tiger. Great shot, Tiger."
I'm sorry, honey. What were you saying? That's the thing about Atlanta that actually does make it difficult. Because if you live in a place where it snows and it stays snow because it's cold all day, then it's actually not that bad. But when you're in a place like Atlanta where it just gets barely cold enough to snow, but then it melts during the day, which makes it just a huge slush pile, and then it freezes back overnight, which makes it like that's why I think it's going to be worse tomorrow. So. It just makes it bad here. So, but that's what we're doing today. We're just hanging out. We decided since I did have some things canceled this morning, I was like, well, I got a little bit of time. We could maybe record a quick one. So we're gonna do the snow day, themed album, Gut Level Music by the Altar Boys.
I mean, why not? I mean, when I think snow day, I think GLM.
Yeah, you think of a punk pop rock band from California.
Yeah, no, it's going back and listening to this album. I mean, it's interesting because, and this is probably just a me thing. Like, for some reason, a lot of the older Altar Boys albums just kind of mesh into one sort of album to me.
Yeah,
like I don't, and I've been thinking about like scientifically why that is, because it doesn't make a lot of logical sense, but I think it's because, and some of you may be able to sympathize or understand this, but I listened to those albums earlier on when they came out, because I was like 13, 15, 16. Then when the collection came out, which was their best of, one of the best ofs out there. The collection was incredible. I just wore the collection out.
Sure.
I just listened to it. I listened to it all the time because it was just it's a great collection. Yeah. Thus the name. But I think that because I listened to that so much after listening to these, that they all became one giant album to me.
Interesting.
That's my theory.
Yeah. So when we talked about Against the Grain, I was introduced to them when they opened up for DeGarmo and Key on a tour, and we saw them at a church, and they just did a great job. And so I bought that album, and then I bought Gut Level Music. And really those are the two main albums I liked. And I got into When You're a Rebel. I never had the first one. And, and I liked it okay, but I really thought, even back then, I thought Gut Level Music and Against the Grain, which we've already done Against the Grain, so you guys can go back and listen to that one, because that's, I think, their best album. I think Against the Grain was their peak songwriting and musicianship and the whole thing. But this one is great. This one is where I think they really hit their stride, kind of like what we did with Homeboys with Adam Again. This is a similar sort of theme where I think with this album, you can hear it on When You're a Rebel. But I think with this album, they really hit their stride as songwriters. Especially Mike wrote everything, I think, except for the cover. We'll get to that, but they hit their stride with their sound was always pretty on point. They had a fairly unique, good sound from the beginning, but I think their songwriting, production to a certain degree, and some of that might have been Frontline with the production, I guess. But anyway, I love this album, and so I was like, we're getting into the stage where we're going to have to go back and kind of do some second albums from some of our. But we've been doing it for 4 years. That's not bad, man. That's not bad that we got through like 3.5 years without doing a second album for somebody.
Yeah, we've done some Striper stuff, of course, but it's like, but yeah, it's funny because I was thinking back and I was like, Altar Boys Against the Grain was one of the very first episodes we did.
Yes.
Because one of the very first episodes we did was talking to Mike Stan.
That's right.
And if you haven't heard that, go back and listen to that. It was great. Mike Stan's such a good dude. So that was a lot of fun. And I agree. To me, in the way that Dig and Homeboys for Adam Again is like 1A, 1B in a lot of ways, I think GLM and Against the Grain are 1A, 1B, just because. And depending on the day, they kind of, it could go back and forth for me because when it kicks off, like to me, like You Found Me and You Are Loved, Life Begins at the Cross. Those seem like songs that were like, if you had asked me, it's like Life Begins at the Cross, what album is that on? I probably would have said Against the Grain. I don't know why, but it's probably because they all mesh together.
Yeah, for sure.
But one other note about this album is this is one of the few albums that I have on vinyl. What's that? I have the re-release and I have the cassette. I have all three. So this is the trifecta. One of the trifecta albums.
I only had it on CD, which was actually I enjoyed. I had Against the Grain on CD and cassette, but Gut Level Music I got later on. I had friends who had Gut Level Music, so I listened to like some friends' cassettes, and they'd be like, back in the day, people would record albums for you on their double tape deck. I know we probably shouldn't say that out loud, right? And and so yeah, I didn't get my own copy of Gut Level Music until I bought it on CD because I fell in love with it, and so
yeah. I'm a little older than you, but not that much. But I think we're probably both from the same era where this is what happened for me. I have like a whole cassette case full of those types of dubs that people did for me, mostly because either I had no money or they just said, you got to listen to this. And they were, like whatever. But I don't think we were alone. Number one. Number two, I think the statute of limitations is up. But
if the FBI isn't coming after me.
No, I don't think so. But the Lars Ulrich might come after you, but that's a different story.
Well, that dude's got some issues, but go ahead.
But what I did for a lot of these was, especially the ones that were kind of in that crossover era in the sort of mid 80s, was I got the cassette dub of it, listened to it for a couple of years, loved it. Then once I got a CD player, I started buying the CDs for all those albums that I loved. So I wound up buying it. So I didn't feel too guilty.
And because when I got a CD player in my car and a CD player, later in the 90s, I actually had the money to get the CDs. Like I spent a couple years getting a whole bunch of old CDs that I didn't have, that I had cassettes of or that I had dubs of. One of my favorite dubs, by the way, this is total like off topic, but one of my favorite dubs was Light Force. Someone dubbed that for me and they're like, you got to listen to this. And I was like, this is awesome. It was so cool. So I don't know whether we'll ever do that one, but I don't know if it's a strong album all the way through to kind of do, but I loved it at the time. Best SoCal thieves. Yeah, it was good.
Very, very nice.
All right. So
the other thing that I had to, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear. Go.
Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. Gotcha. The other thing that I did a lot of, which maybe also be relational to people, is I burned a lot of albums. Did you ever go to an album burning?
No, I don't think we ever did that. Like CDs, like you got CDs, you did the CDs.
Anything that had potential devil in it. So,
that's what you. I like not like burn CDs and copy music that way, but you mean like burning albums, like with fire,
like a burn barrel. Yes, with fire. And then it's okay. I'm going to put this out there. So like there was one time we did a burn barrel in the backyard of a friend's house. Right. And so everybody brought their evil Michael Jackson, their evil Van Halen, all that stuff. And they were just tossing it in. And then the smoke or the fire that was coming out was like blue. We were like, that's the devil.
That's the devil.
Clearly
fire.
That's the devil. Not the fact that vinyl burns blue right. But also I burned some stuff in some of those like sort of moments of like just, and I don't regret it just because it's like, that's where I was at the moment. But then later I'm like going, you know what? I really like The Unforgettable Fire by U2. So I wound up having to buy that again. So I wound up buying it twice. So whatever. Anyway,
I had a friend who, I don't remember which album it was or which cassette it was, but I think he bought the same cassette at least 3 times because he would buy it and then get convicted, quote unquote, about having this secular album and smash it or burn it in an effort to rededicate himself to the Lord, and then regret it 6 months later because he didn't have it anymore, and then he'd buy it, and then like he would do that. But and I just, dude, just give me the cassette, just give it to me. Because I never did that. I just wouldn't, like, if it was something I didn't think I should have, I just wouldn't buy it. Like, and it was really, the more extreme stuff like Slayer and all that stuff. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing this. But anyway, but today we're doing Altar Boys. And do we have any news? I know you said you're winging it, but do we have news?
We can do a news segment.
Okay, let's do a news segment.
We'll wing it.
We'll wing it. All right. News.
In the news, it snowed. There's a blanket of snow out. It reminds me of the cover of Bruce Coburn's Christmas. I'm going to get a little wooden chair and sit out there with a guitar. No,
I wish we were cool enough that you had like a map behind you and you were like, the winds are coming down here.
I got nothing. Yeah, it's there's plenty of stuff going on. I told Britt before we got on, I'm like, this is an episode that I have not prepared for, but I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal because I know this album backwards and forwards. So that's not an issue. It's just the whole sort of news thing. There's not going to be any.
Yeah. So
if you've got news, DM me and I'll get it on the next episode or I'll post it on Facebook because I know that we've done some things and there's some things happening. Actually, I'll tell you what, let me go to the Facebook page for Christian Geeks Rockcast and I'll see what I've posted recently. Jimmy Sorrells posted an article, a review for the Petro concert we went to back in September. So that was really cool. I didn't know he was doing that.
He did a good job.
Okay. See, this is what I should do every time. Just go to the Facebook page and just read everything I've posted.
Right.
So Lost in Ohio Records, which they're the one, they've done a lot of reissues of sort of fringy type Christian bands and then some other stuff, but they do a real good job. I've got a couple other things. They posted a tease for January 21st, and the tease was getting ready to kick it up to speeder mode, which if you're familiar, speeder mode is a song on Aunt Betty's album, their debut album, which if you're not familiar with who Aunt Betty's is, it's Michael Knott's like mainstream project that he did on Elektra Records. Really good album. Really, really good album. But are they doing a vinyl of Aunt Betty's?
Who's to say?
I
Probably,
don't know.
likely.
Yeah. So that's
In
actually pretty
memoriam,
exciting.
probably.
Yeah, that's a pretty exciting thing for a lot of people, including but not limited to myself. Um, and then I did, and this is just kind of recapping the countdown that I did at the end of last year on social media. If you follow us on Facebook or Instagram, I did the top 5 like album review episodes, and then I had to do an explanation of that also, just because our top 4 episodes were interviews, which maybe is a sign. Maybe we do more interviews. So trying to line up a few of those for this year. We're always going to be doing the album reviews because that's kind of who we are. But I like to shake it up a little bit with interviews every now and then too. So we got that going on.
Good.
I'm eating a cheese stick while I'm talking. Sorry, I'm doing this over my lunch break, so you're getting the best of me.
Getting it.
So it's exciting. We had honestly like year in review kind of quick talk. Last year was a great year. We produced fewer episodes, got more listens, gained a lot of new subscribers.
Yeah.
So for you guys, especially you guys, I was thinking about this earlier. You guys who listened to all the episodes.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you. Because I mean,
That's
if
so
you look
cool.
at our Whiteheart episode, our from a couple of years ago, our Savior Machine episode, our Ronnie Cates episode, those are some of the spikes where we got like a lot of listeners. But then there's just a pretty consistent group of people who listen all the time. And I get it because there's podcasts that I listen to like, okay, I just want to hear that. And I don't really care about the other stuff.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly fine with that too. But you guys who listen to pretty much every episode, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. We will reiterate, we have the best fans. I don't even call them fans. I mean, they're just people like us, people who get it, who get what we're doing and love it. And, you know, just like we listen to other people's podcasts, you know, like Joe Walker and other people who are doing similar things. And, you know, we're not really fans as if like, you know, people are elevated in any way. However, we're all part of the same community and we enjoy it. I've seen some cool posts. You had a cool post with the Us Kids group. They used one of your photos in one of their posts that I saw, and I was like, there you go. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I did a bunch of scans for them. I got a lot of paraphernalia. Not all of it is relevant to Us Kids because that's a very specific genre and a very specific time frame. But I had it. I mean, so I scanned a whole bunch of stuff for them last year, early last year, probably about this time last year. I was doing a lot of that.
Yeah.
So they've got a lot of my stuff, and I've just said use it. So
that's cool. That's
you may see it on their socials. You may see it in the movie. So who knows?
Who knows? All right. So I got a quick rant, and then we can get into the album. So I've been considering some things over the last year, and one of the things that keeps popping up into my brain, and I have some friends of mine who also, we talk about this, you know, I don't know, a few times a year. It's not like it's all the time, but I would enjoy putting together music, like recording some of my old music, right? Just having fun with it and putting some guys or girls together and just having fun with some sort of music project. I don't have time for it. And that frustrates me because part of the reason I don't have time for it is because I believe it would be a completely free thing. In other words, it would only cost me time and energy and maybe money. And that would just have to be a for the love of it kind of project, which I'm kind of okay with. I just don't have time for that. But it frustrates me because I think there are a lot of people probably more talented than me and who are doing this and they see little to no money because like I'm in publishing and there's still a way to make money in publishing. You can sell a book and make even an ebook and make a couple bucks, right? And so there's still a system and a way to create things and spend time and make money on a product if you do happen to sell anything. And you can still give stuff away when you're an author, but as far as musicians are concerned, this whole democratization of music, which has some positives, man, it's taken almost all the money from the musicians out of it and the creators out of it. And yes, you can kind of supplement that or get around that with like GoFundMe's or all these sort of things, but I can't imagine, and I don't know the financial statements of Striper or anybody. Striper seems like they're doing it full time and they don't have to have other jobs. But a lot of these guys, people are listening to their music, but even if people just don't buy albums anymore, very rarely, right? And maybe they make money off of a, re-release on a vinyl or something, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, that's just a frustration I've been having as I've been just kind of thinking about it, because we met another one of my friends who's a drummer, at the Striper show, and he and I had dinner and we were just talking about things, and it's like, man, it would be fun to record something again. It would just be fun to just do something like that. And I'm thinking, man, but like if I could make some money, a little bit, even if I'm not saying like get rich or do full time, but if it could bring something in, that would be one thing. But if it's anyway, but then I think more about the people who are doing it and how frustrating it must be to deal with that. And I know I've read some of those frustrations from like Mike. What was his name? Michael Drive. He put out a post and did a video, and I totally sympathize, empathize. I totally relate to that idea. So anyway,
yeah,
that's a little rant. I don't have a solution for it. I was just frustrating.
Yeah, I mean I'm adjacent to that world, but not in that world. I mean, from the standpoint, like, there's a level of artistic expression that people like you and other artists who, like you're an author, so you write books, and seeing them in print is a beautiful thing, and having people purchase those, and but like, I don't consider myself an artist per se. I do, it's like, to me, like I was telling one of my kids the other day he wanted to make some dinner or whatever. And I'm like, that's my artistic expression is like cooking now.
Right.
And this,
yeah,
I mean, I get to play around with stuff online. I get to make graphics, do some design stuff, which is kind of fun. And then I'll tinker a little bit at work, which is really not my job because we have a whole department of people who do that. But it's like, you have to find, like, if you have an artistic side, you don't really feel fulfilled until you can somehow fulfill that, even if it's not lucrative.
Right.
Like, it's got to scratch that itch a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, like I said, I do have other creative outlets, especially in the writing realm, where I do get a little bit of money from it, and that's fine. But to me, it would be more, I'm just thinking ahead. It's more frustration. It would be frustrating for me as an author is if I quote unquote sold 500 books and made $50 from it. Like that was like that's, but that's what a lot of these artists and bands and people are dealing with. Is they get 1,000 listens on Apple and they get 4 cents from it or some crap. I mean, like that would drive me crazy. Be like,
yeah,
wait a minute. But again, some of that's just being old school and having lived in a time when we bought albums and the artist did get something per whatever item sold or whatever. Probably, I don't know. I don't know all the different details, but anyway, it's a little old man rant, and I'm sure there's different ways of still, making some money off of it. But like I said, it was just something that I've been thinking of the last few months.
Well, and not to go too far down this path, but again, when we start talking about stuff like this, my brain starts percolating, which is usually problematic. So I think like the legacy artists, like in the world we live in, the world that we talk about, like the legacy artists, like the 77s, Galactic Cowboys, those guys who, the Choir, when they do like GoFundMe campaigns or Kickstarters or whatever, like that's how they're selling, quote unquote, selling physical media, and they're able to generate. So like, I'll spend $35 on a record, and if they make $8, that's dramatically more than they would ever get from me streaming that record for the next 30 years.
Absolutely.
So it's like, so for them, but the thing is, I'm willing to put out money for a band that I already own a lot of physical media. I trust them. I know what they're going to do. But like new artists, it's like,
exactly.
It's hard to sort of get a foothold and say, no, please commit to me $35 to $50. Just believe that, I'm going to just believe. It's like, no, you're like, I'm going to stream that album, and then I'm going to try to get an affinity for you. And then maybe in like 2 or 3 albums, I'll buy something from you.
Right. And again, like I said, there's probably ways to do it. And I just haven't done a lot of the research. And, I know some people are doing it. It's, there's a way to, but in the beginning, it's a lot of giving away stuff for free or performing for free, doing it online, doing it on social media, building an audience. I mean, there's ways to do it. It's just, I'm not interested in all that. I just want to make I want to make an album and have some fun, and it not be completely for free. If it does, anyway, just kind of rambling about
Two words. AI.
Just man, yeah. AI, Chat GPT, write me a song with. Anyway, all right. So, Altar Boys, Gut Level Music. Altar Boy. We talked a lot about the Altar Boys when we did Against the Grain. They formed in 1982. I think they still had, but this was their first album with Frontline, from what I understand. Correct me if I'm wrong.
One of the first Frontline albums of all time.
Really? I didn't know that. And I think they still had 4 people in the band. I think they only had 3 with Against the Grain, but they still had the second guitar player, right?
The photos only show 3 people, but I don't know if Steve was actually. Hang on a second. Bear with me while I pull out my liner notes. Well, the photo. This is what's great about the CD that I had. The original CD that I have. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see this. But it's like is this Compassion International sort of leaflet.
Sure.
That comes in where you can sponsor a child through their album.
It had 4 people on it.
Yeah, so it's got 4, but there's only 3 people. So my guess is that Steve probably maybe was unofficially in the band and then sort of became official, or was unofficial, left the band after the Compassion photo. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? But I think Rick Alba is a great bass player. Jeff, the drummer, is phenomenal. They really did have a great band, and they kind of fit in that alternative Replacements, Ramones, 80s melodic punk sort of thing. It was a little more mainstream punk. It wasn't sort of the underground, just always shouting. I mean, Mike Stan has a phenomenal voice, and he's a great songwriter. And I think, as I said, when we did either the interview or the album, his voice at times reminds me of Bryan Adams, that sort of shouting but high sort of thing. And it's just chordal, aggressive music, and it's all about being a rebel and loving but it's the Christian rebel thing. It's like, well, I'm a rebel because I'm a Christian. It's that sort of, those sort of messages. But as we'll get into, just solid songwriting, solid performances, and just great albums.
Yeah, I think that, if you want to know if it's punk or not, go back and listen to the Alan Aguirre episode, and he will inform you this is not even remotely punk. Love you, Alan. But yeah, I do agree. It's like, it's not like traditional, like Clash, like that kind of thing.
Yeah,
but
it is.
Yeah. It's punk in this. It's punk in the same way that like Blink 182 was punk. It's just sort of poppy, sort of like for young Christians. It was punk. It was really punk, especially those of us who didn't live anywhere near where punks lived. But no, to me, this was just good music.
Yeah, absolutely.
It had punk influence to it. It was, had some melodics, very, I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's just, you explained it well. I'm not even going to try to do it.
All right. Artwork. Let's do artwork.
Artwork. To me, this over the years, this artwork has become iconic in a lot of ways. Like, I think their logo is strong, like this sort of scratch script sort of, and then the guitar on the front cover. And Mike Stand even posted a picture of this guitar recently, like where it says gut level music, where he like hand drew it with like a Sharpie or something. It's still the same, except it's like 3/4 of the way rubbed off, but still, like, just knowing he still has this guitar, like, what's this, 39 years later, he still loves it. It still plays well. It looks like it's been beat up, but everything, but it's like, to me, it's a great cover. And then the back with all them in sort of, duotone, different colors, the three of those. I mean, it's to me, like I said, it's classic. It's become its own thing. What do you think?
I would say that this album, even though I like the album, the music of the album and the songs and everything overall on Against the Grain more, I like the artwork on this album way better. Against the Grain, you'll hear us, talk about, we made fun of that. It's just like, oh, let's go outside and take a picture. And that's what that looks like. This looks like they put some thought into it. And I think it's cool. I actually really like the cover. And I liked it then. I thought it was cool. It just fits that whole punk, slightly underground vibe. And I loved it. 100%. I thought it was cool.
Well, and if you were, I mean, it's like this album, the sort of theme of it, the title of it, everything, like if you take this one and take like God Rules by Undercover, like that, people were scratching that stuff into their notebooks in school, in high school and stuff. GLM, God Rules. I know me and all my friends, we would like that stuff. We scratched it all of our note. We'd like, doodle it on homework. I mean, it was cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it was people like, again, I've reiterated this over the years on here. It's like, we were struggling for something that was cool. We knew
exactly.
We were trying to be squeaky clean, but we also wanted to be cool. And how can we do that? And this was cool.
This was cool. I totally agree. All right. Ready to get into some music?
I could not be any more ready. Let's go.
All right. This is the first song, You Are Loved. It's a great first song, and really he did I think starting maybe with When You're a Rebel, but definitely on Gut Level Music and Against the Grain, he really tried to speak to the brokenhearted, the down and out. You could tell that was a big theme for him, and tried to speak love to that. So cool lyrics, great message, great song, melodies. And it's got a little bit of a bridge. It's not great. There's a few bridges on here. There's a little bit of a weakness in his songwriting to me. I don't know whether that's a punk thing or not, but anyway, it's great. It's a great song.
Sorry. I had my mic muted. We talked to him in the interview that we did with him a good bit. about how it feels like a lot of their music was reaching out to the lonely, to the, the kid on the street, the kid who felt like he had no place to go, who felt ostracized by the church or whatever. It's really evident in the music, and even with the lyrics is, to this song, to all the dreamers with abandoned dreams, to the hearts that have been broken, to everybody in need of a friend, you are loved. It's like the message in that song is just very clearly scripturally, like God doesn't accept everything about it, but he accepts you.
Yeah.
He doesn't want your sin, but he wants you, and then he wants you to be redeemed. So I don't know. It's a super, like, you're listening to it, like, even as a kid, I was trying really hard to be the squeaky clean kid as best I could. Of course, I was a teenager, so, I did the best I could. Anyway, but listening to it, it still felt like, okay, he's talking to me.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know, listening to their music always made me feel good.
I totally agree. And I'm going to nerd out just for a second, but so I was seeing something about Marcus Aurelius, who, if you don't know who that is, he was a philosopher and one of the Caesars, by the way. Anyway, he wrote about kind of self-actualization, as Roman and first couple centuries, and kind of pull yourself up by your own bootstraps sort of thing, and kind of getting back to Roman, values and all that stuff. Well, he did not like Christians. And one of the reasons he didn't like Christians was, I don't think he like actively persecuted them, but one of the reasons he didn't like Christians is that they accepted everybody. That they would include the slave, the down and out, the addicted, the sick, the lame, the women, and he was like, they'll just accept anybody. And he had these standards, like of excellence and all this stuff. And so I know, some people give the church a hard time, but there are moments in the church where actually we do have the right, reputation, as it were. So yeah, so that's what this song and his songs kind of remind me of.
Well, our instruction manual tells us a lot of great things to do. Not everyone follows that to the letter,
right,
though.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Now we're getting into GLM.
Let's go.
Yeah, a lot of these songs, by the way, are short, and a lot of these songs have 3 verses. It's like they're not super fast, but they've got a lot of energy, and they kind of get in there and they get to it. And it's like to make the song 3 minutes instead of 2 minutes, they got to add a third verse. And I don't know if that's how they thought, but just the story-based verses are cool. It's, again, just good songwriting. There's no bridge, but 3 verses, and it's more about God speaking in our gut. It has the feeling of kind of like the metal bands used to have, like, we're metal, but we love Jesus. We're going to play the rock and roll, but we love Jesus. Like, it had that sort of idea to it, but he actually did something a little original to it. It was like, this music is going to help, your heart or whatever. I don't know. I thought it was a little different, and I actually appreciate it.
No, it's I love it. It's great. And it's funny because it follows a little bit of the trope of like every verse is a story about a different person.
Yeah.
And that I don't mind that trope. I mean, it's fine, but it's just, I mean, it's I don't know. It's got a great, it's got a great message, first of all, of course, but just kind of, it kind of steps into the punk world a little more than the first song does. And so you kind of feel a little bit more, and he sings with a little bit more urgency and a little bit more passion in his voice, but the subject matter is a little more urgent. It's like, he's preaching at Jimmy, it's like, hey, Jimmy. But anyway, it's, there's all these like sort of sad stories, but it's like, listen to the music. The message is in the music. Like, listen to it. Like, and kind of, it's like a lot of the 80s stuff, there was a lot of emotion in music. I mean, maybe there is now. I don't listen to today's music, but it's like the stories were like, the ballads were like, oh my gosh, if she just loved me like, like White Lion says that she should love, whatever. Or, or like, you're angry, so you listen to Black Flag, or, there's all this like, or The Cure. I'm sad, so listen to The Cure. But like, we expressed ourselves more emotionally through music. So it's like, it's just kind of fun to listen to a song like this where he's like, I've got something serious to say, therefore I'm up in the intensity and you should listen. It's gut level music, man. It's
gut level music, man. I haven't thought about Black Flag in a long time, man. No, I wrote that down. I
don't know why it came to mind.
That's a good. I mean, not that Altar Boy sounds like Black Flag, but they were
not at all.
I had a friend who introduced me to Black Flag. I forget which album, and Metallica Ride the Lightning at the same time. He was like, you got to listen to these two bands. And needless to say, I picked up Metallica more, but I do remember. All right. So next song, following a lot of the same, reaching out to those who feel a little marginalized. I'm not talking about religion. I love it. Just a declaration. I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about politics. I'm just talking about relationship with Jesus. Okay. Yeah, that's good.
No, it's super simple. I mean, it's a simple message, but it's honestly, it's like, even today, I think there's a lot of truth in these lyrics that applies as much today as it did back then. And we'll get to another song in a little bit where it's maybe even more so, but it's like people get caught up in, especially these days, it's like, I don't believe in Jesus because of the way I was treated at this church or whatever. And it's like, Jesus has, unfortunately, very little to do with the way you were treated at that church. You probably were treated at that church by people who don't follow Jesus like they should.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, it's not about that church. It's not about religion. It's not about shaving your head. It's a relationship.
Yeah. And like I said before, there are examples of people who do it well and do it right, but we're all human and we all make mistakes. And Jesus, I mean, the Gospels make sure to tell us that Jesus wasn't always welcomed in the synagogue either. So there's the Gospels really do make it a point, as much as they become sort of rallying cries for certain perspectives. The Gospels really do make it a point that this is about the poor, the downtrodden, the forgotten. This is who Jesus was about. And And because he was that, I mean, in a certain sense, he was that. He was born. There was no room for him at the end, all that stuff. I mean, like, it was making a point over and over again of reaching out to those who feel forgotten. So yeah, so I love this song. Again, the bridge isn't great, but I think the verses are and the choruses, it all works. And they really have their style and they kind of stick to it. It's not quite as bad, but it's not quite as much, but it's kind of like the Angelica album, where a lot of the songs pretty much have the same sort of style, but they do a good job. Altar Boys does a good job, I feel, still creating some dynamics, still creating some ways to create those dynamics. And I love Rook Alba's bass parts. I just thought he was a little more creative, and I wished some metal bands would do more of that too. Like, some of the metal bands, the bass players just sat there and played one note for half the song, and I'm like, you could do more. I mean, I know we're trying to highlight the flashy guitar guys, but that's another reason.
The flashy guitar guys would tell those guys to stop.
Yeah, they would. The only and again, that's one other reason I think we talked about it with Angelica. That the bass playing on that album is amazing. All right, so all right, I question it. I think this song is about questioning things. I'm not sure.
I think you might be right.
That's pretty much the song. That's it. There it is.
I can't stop. No, I can't stop. No.
Oh yeah, he does that. Break into that. Yeah. This isn't one of my favorites. This is just kind of a little bit of a filler song to me. I kind of like what he's saying, and I know why it's on the album. It's a little bit of the after school special sort of idea, kind of like Barren Cross did a whole album of. And, it's just, that's kind of where it is. I don't dislike it, but it's just kind of there.
Yeah. Yeah. Musically, the beginning of the song is really weird to me. I mean, but that's a creative decision, I love the message behind it. I mean, it's nothing new, it's kind of that sort of typical 80s, like the progress of the world is kind of leaving the Bible behind a little bit, and again, this was what I was referring to, is like, this is very relevant today, maybe even more so than it was back then, because everything that progressed to a certain point now has gone way over here.
Sure.
But yeah, so it's, I tend to agree with you. Musically, not my fave. It's a little bit, God, I don't know how to say this without it sounding bad. Like a little bit sort of trite lyrically. I mean, the messaging is good, but it's just, it's a B minus.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, this was, like I said, this seemed like more of a filler song, which, I don't think Against the Grain really had any of those. I don't think that was strong all the way through, but hey man, and something that we talked about before, remember, like, this came out in 86, Against the Grain came out in 87, and When You're a Rebel came out 85 or some craziness. Like, we talked about this before. These guys were having to not only tour with very little money, but then be creative with very little money and support, and then just pump out these albums every year. And that's, I mean, if you've ever tried to make a whole album once a year of great material and musicianship, like, I have never done that. I can only imagine. So, yes, it's a filler song, but I give a little grace, actually. All right. And then we get into You Found Me. So this was on their first album, I think, right? This is from like their first or second album, and I think they redid it for this album.
That's possible. I didn't look that up.
I'm pretty sure.
Right.
And I'm glad they did, because the production is way better on this one, and it sounds way better on this one. This is a very simple. I was lost. God, this is what Christian bands would write on their first album, right? I was lost. God saved me. And the third verse says, hey, you can be saved too. This is somewhat formulaic in the messaging, but a lot of Christian bands would have at least one song like this, and
yeah, it was on their first album from 2 years prior.
Yeah. So 2 years prior. And, secular bands would do this. Non-Christian bands would do this. Once they started getting a little more popular and getting some money behind them and better production, they would go back. White Lion did this. White Snake did this. A lot of the white named bands. No, but they would go back and they'd kind of they'd redo an older song that was solid, but didn't have the fandom yet to really kind of push it out there and have a hit with. So anyway, I like this song. I think it's a little bit of a break musically. It's still in the same style, but it's not quite as kind of aggressive. It is aggressive, but it's not as aggressive. It's a little more melodic, so I dig it.
Yeah, musically it's definitely more melodic, and that was one of the things that I was going to note is just, it's probably maybe as close to a palate cleanser as we have on this album.
I think there's one other ones, I think, but go ahead. Yeah,
but it's it's a good one, and I think it's not as aggressive. Like, he's not singing it as aggressively, and I think and I don't mean that in a negative way, but no. But I like it. And the thing is, I have that first album. I almost never listened to it, which is why I forgot that this song was on there.
I know, yeah.
But yeah, so it definitely is a better version of that.
Yep. All right. So next we're getting into a song called Unconditional Love. This was one of the first songs I heard by the Altar Boys, and I loved it. And then I learned that it was a cover from Donna Summer. Now, if you are old like me, you probably know who Donna Summer is. But Donna Summer had a huge hit in the 80s called She Works Hard for the Money. But before that album, in the 70s, she did like disco stuff, somewhat sexual stuff, and she got saved or somehow had some sort of life change. And that album with She Works Hard for the Money didn't have that sort of raunchy stuff on it. And on that album, which I had that album at some point on vinyl, it had, and I bought that album because I actually liked that song, She Works Hard for the Money, and this song was on it. And on that album, it was a reggae song. For Donna Summer, it was more in the reggae style. And these guys did an amazing cover of this. Like this, so we just did Homeboys, Like the parallels, I didn't think about this, but the parallels are starting to really happen here. So Homeboys did a cover of a Marvin Gaye song, but they did it almost note for note. The Altar Boys did a cover of a Donna Summer song, and they totally revamped it musically, totally made it their own. And I love this song. So
yeah, and this song was co-written by Michael Omartian, which, you know, those of you who are familiar with the CCM world are familiar with him. And also, if you're familiar with Christopher Cross and Yacht Rock, you probably know him as well. But yeah, so yeah, I love this version of this song too. In fact, I often forget that it's a remake until I'm listening to like 80s on 8 on Sirius XM and I hear the original one. Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah.
All right, well, let's do it. We talked about it.
It's like it was originally written to be this way.
I know. Like if you've heard the original version, it's very cool. And Donna Summer is an amazing singer, and that was a cool song. But yeah, man, they totally made it their own with the little drum fills and the bass line, and like it's not but I think the reggae style song just totally translated perfectly into kind of a punk version. I don't know if this was their biggest hit, but it was a huge hit for them. I from what I remember.
Remember those Pop Goes Punk albums? They were secular albums. So it was like, you know, you would have like Alien Ant Farm and you know, Blink 182 and Green Day and MXPX, and they would all do like pop versions of punk versions of pop songs.
Yeah.
Did they ever do a Reggae Goes Punk? Because that would work probably.
It would totally work. I have threatened at times over my life to do a punk album where I do punk versions of different genres, because you can totally do it, and you can do a reggae version of almost any song, because it's just the style underneath it. A good enough song can be played in any genre. I'm going to say that again. A good enough song can be played in any style. That's what makes it a good song. It can sound good on an acoustic guitar, on a piano, rocking it out, dance, whatever you want to do with it. That's the strength of a good song.
And not to go all Swifty on you, who is his name is Ryan something. He's a kind of a big singer-songwriter guy. Okay, bear with me here. He did a remake version of a Taylor Swift album. And hang on, I'm going to tell you. This is going to bear with me a moment. We'll play the Ryan Adams. Okay, so Ryan Adams did a punk version. He did his own style version of a Taylor, like song for song remake of a Taylor Swift album. It's great. It is really good. And I've listened to, I listened to it a lot back in the day when it first came out. And I was like, this is a great album. And now when I hear a Taylor Swift, I'm like, oh, look, Taylor, I've heard this song before, but it wasn't this version. And whereas most everybody is the other way around.
Right.
It's like, I'm just like, Taylor redid this Ryan Adams song, but it's like, but Taylor Swift has Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift. I'll get it right. Taylor Swift has good songs.
Yeah.
They're good pop songs. They're well written. Love her or hate her.
Yeah.
She's a billionaire.
A lot of people don't realize, especially those first 2 albums, because I was involved in a little bit of the Nashville songwriting scene. The Nashville songwriting scene, which was the last place to have a songwriting scene, I don't even know if it's there anymore. She totally revolutionized. Like, there were professional songwriters in Nashville who taught her how to do this? Like, she's doing something completely unusual. They started copying this 17-year-old girl, even though she's not that great of a singer, but they started copying her songwriting because she was putting some things together that really hadn't been done before, and then putting it into the kind of the country world at the time. So, no. Yeah, total respect on that level for Taylor Swift. All right.
Yeah.
There is a love. I think this is the other more palate cleanser.
Palate cleanser. Agreed.
All right, so this song reminds me of Jacob's Trouble, which also is part of their homage to the Beatles. It's very Beatle-esque, the sound of the guitars. I'm really interested. I didn't look this up. I don't know if it says it on the vinyl or somewhere, the liner notes that you have. Who wrote this song? Because it does sound like, Mike Stand a little bit, but it's different.
It's Mike.
It's Mike. Okay. So very impressive, because this totally feels, I don't know if he meant it to be this way, but it feels like an homage to the Beatles, the vocals, the guitar sounds, the structure of it. The drums are very Ringo-ish, and I really dig this song. Of course, I'm a huge Beatles fan, but and Jacob's Trouble. So yeah, and the bridge this is the best bridge on the album, by the way. This has a bridge, and it's amazing. It's a great bridge. So kudos.
Yeah, it's not my favorite song. I think it's a palate cleanser, but to me, it's almost too different. And that's just my own personal opinion. But the other weird thing is coming out of the gate with the chorus. Like, you hear the chorus first, then you hear a verse, which is pretty unusual. But to me, it's not a super strong chorus.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
it's just. But yeah, it's just okay for me.
Yeah. All right, getting into Calling on You. Calling to You. I'm sorry, not Calling on You.
I was like, is that the right album? Which Taylor Swift album is Calling on You on? I can't remember.
It's got a little bit more of a metal-ish intro. And then they get back into punk.
Mm-hmm.
The great
It's a great song. It's a great little song.
Yeah.
And it's
I love
totally fun. Great intro, good verses, nice chorus. Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah, I've been sort of dissecting the punk nature, or like to me we kind of talked about this earlier, but there's punk elements to it.
Yeah.
But it's almost like Mike is just too nice to be full punk. So like
I can see that.
And I mean that in a good way. I mean, it's like you can't deliver some of these lyrics like screaming and, the whole time. But it's like every now and then he'll be like, the eyes that say that, it's like he's kind of singing it, and he sings it in a just, sweet is not the right word, but he sings it, very nicely. And then once he starts to he'll start getting a little intense, and he'll start kind of yelling just a little bit, but then he starts singing real nicely to you again. But that's the Altar Boys. That's what you get with them. And this is great.
It is. It's great. I love it. I love his voice. I love the style. And like I said, these two albums I'm never sad listening back to them. It's never, I'm always like, ooh, I get to listen to these two albums again. Just so strong. All right. Final hour.
In the garden, he fell to his knees. The time had come, and he knew the sacrifice just had to be paid for you and me. It's the final hour. It's the final hour before the cross and the victory.
Yeah, that's pretty much the song. This is about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, and sort of a little bit of a story Bible song about that, and with a little bit of an ominous title, The Final Hour. And it's kind of interesting. Does a double verse at the last. So he's got like two verses, like a verse, chorus, and then a little breakdown thing, jam or whatever, and then like a double verse and then the chorus out. It's an okay song. It's a little bit of a filler song, unfortunately, because I mean, the subject is awesome. I like thinking about Jesus and what he did, but it's good.
Yeah, it's a cool, like, to me, like the beginning riff, like the riff throughout the song is a little edgy. It's a little, to me, it's a little more of a punk riff, but than what they're typically doing. But it's I mean, I like the song. I think a lot of the subject matter deserves a bit of a more edgy, harder song, which is kind of cool. But I like it. I like
the guitar sound, and here's one thing, and I'm going to just generally say this, but I like the guitar sounds on this album a little better than the guitar sounds on Against the Grain. I don't know if that's because the Steve guy was a part of it, maybe on this album, or maybe just the production a little bit. They were trying to be a little edgier or a little more poppy with the Against the Grain, which I can kind of see that, because you had Broken, you had an actual slow song and the whole thing with Against the Grain. So yeah, I just like I like the guitar sound.
Yeah, I don't see Steve Pinnier as being a contributor to this album based on the liner notes. I mean, who knows?
All right. Last song.
This last song is written by Rick Alba, which to me is
that's
I love
cool.
This song.
Oh, he wrote one on Against the Grain too. One of them, a good one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Oh wait.
Take a look
It's a great song. It's a really cool song. It's a great ending song. I love it.
To me, it's the strongest song on the album. It's my favorite anyway. It's just it's such a well written song, beginning to end.
Yeah,
and like the sort of almost like gang vocal, like call and response, and the chorus is just. I mean, it just lends itself, like it just kind of gets you pumped up at the end of the album. I mean, I don't know. It's one of the more perfect song ending albums that I've heard.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I love the lesson. You know, life begins at the cross. You know, it's not the most comfortable message, but it's the true message. But it's not a doom. It's like life begins at the cross. It's calling you to something where life actually begins, and there's a self-sacrifice involved. But and it just in the way that they do it, and yeah, I just. It's got a better bridge, by the way. It's got a bridge, but it's actually pretty good. It's a nicely written, performed, energetic. And that's one thing, we probably talked about this with Against the Grain. That's one thing I always liked about the Altar Boys. And this is kind of from the punk realm, is the energy. I love their energy. Mm-hmm. Their energy, his vocals have energy, the bass has energy, but it's not rushed. I don't know if musicians understand what I mean by that. It's got energy and it's aggressive, but it's not rushed. You don't feel, it's not anxious. It's aggressive and power. I don't know if that makes sense to people, but I like it.
No, there's an aggression and a sort of, there's an aggression in the lyrics. There's an aggression in the message they're trying to get across. It's very straightforward and very straight to the heart. And it's not, you know, they're not dancing around the subject matter so much. It's like, you know, and not that other albums do, not that there's not CCM albums or hair metal albums or anything like that don't do that. But typically speaking, you're not going to get a lot of sort of layered nuance in punk music. They're just going to kind of go straight to the point.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
And in this case, you talked about it too, but it's just like that sort of juxtaposition of where does life begins at the place where people die.
Yeah.
Like this torture, like device that kills people. It's like just sort of like if you said that to someone back in the Bible times, like life begins at the cross. It's like, no, that's where death begins.
And shame. Like, and it was meant to be the most painful, humiliating experience. The Romans, who were fairly smart people, it was the most torturous, humiliating thing they could conceive of. And they did it a lot. And it was not a sign of joy, but again, God redeems all things, you know, he redeems all things. So yeah, so it's a great song and it's a great album. I totally dig this album, and you know, it's good.
Yeah, I've got that GLM, buddy. I don't know.
You
about
got it. I got it now for sure.
You know, I was thinking, hey, when I was listening to Gut Level Music, I was thinking this is a prime candidate for another dramatic reading. So you never know.
I like this idea.
So stay tuned to our socials. You might get a dramatic reading of GLM from me.
Yeah, I like it. It would be hard to pick the song, but I believe in you. I believe you'll pick the right one.
I think Gut Level Music is
Level Music.
It's kind of got to be a story. There's got to be it can't be just like, you know, there's got to be a story. So I'll look at it.
Okay. Yeah.
But there might be a couple on here. I'm just saying.
I think so.
So that's Gut Level Music.
That was it.
Happy 2025.
Happy 2025.
First episode of 2025. So we're kicking it off. We're actually, I think probably either around this time this episode launches or just after it, we will have been doing this for 4 years.
4 years.
4 years. Our oldest kids were freshmen in high school, and now they're both out of high school.
Yes, they are.
When we started this thing. So crazy. Well, thanks. I mean, for people who have been around since the beginning, thank you. If this is your first episode listening, thank you. If you made it this far, that means you love us and we love you.
You're either a glutton for punishment or you love us or something.
You love us. You really love us. But thank you so much. I mean, you guys are great. all the reviews you guys have given us, all the feedback we get on social is fantastic. We get emails, or we get direct messages. All that stuff really means a lot. So keep it coming. And we try to respond to everything, maybe not on the hour, but probably faster than other podcasts do. But yeah, check us out on YouTube as well. We put these reviews up on YouTube if you want to watch us talk about it. It's real exciting for you to see how good looking we are.
Or at least know there's someone worse looking than you. At least maybe it's like, wow, I'm not as bad as those guys.
Yeah, it could be worse. But yeah, so thanks everybody. Episode 74 in the books. We'll see you next time, and peace out.
Peace out, guys.